Hey there everyone, Mazarok here, and today I'm going to be going over the soul conduits, specifically, not the soul binds, just the conduits for all warrior specs, what I think of them, how much I have used them personally, and I'm going to go through spec by spec. So first we're going to go with the ones I know the absolute best. We're going to go with protection. So brutal vitality, I'm just going to go down the list: endurance, finesse, potency, and we're going to go there. Also, if you do like this type of content, please let me know. Like and subscribe. It goes a really long way. And if you want to see more of it, the more of it I have, the more keen that I am on making more of it. It's all a wonderful circle. If there is certain content that you do want to see, let me know. You never know. I might be thinking about it and I just haven't been asked. And we can go from there. So right off the bat, we're going to go with the endurance conduits for prot. Brutal vitality is not a terrible conduit if you are ignore pain spamming, if you're using it a lot, but once you get to certain points with prot warrior, you're not using it as much as you think. Shield block is your main rage dump, but it is nice. It's good to have, but there are better. The nice thing with warrior is there's a lot of really good ones. Indelible victory. Victory rush heals you for 420% of the damage it dealt over 8 seconds. Not a bad conduit, but you're just not getting that. The thing is with, especially in keys, definitely raids, you're just not getting the victorious rushes enough that you think. There's 3 DPS with you that are hopefully pumping way higher than you and have a much higher chance of getting the kill, because you need the killing strike to be able to proc victory rush. So it's one of these things that in an open world, I love this one. It's great. In Mythic Plus and rating, it just doesn't have a lot of utility. Stalwart Guardian. So the cooldown of Shield Wall is reduced by 30 seconds. I personally love this one. I constantly have it equipped to reduce Shield Wall from 4 minutes to 3.5 minutes. More Shield Walls, better. Because if you think about it, 30 seconds adds up in the course of a dungeon. It really does, especially when you've got timers between 28 and 43 minutes. You know, that's an extra 2 to 3 shield walls every dungeon, which means you're getting through a lot more problem packs and things like that. You're having it up for when you want it more. Fantastic option, especially on prot. Should mostly always be equipped. Fueled by violence. When you are healed for... you're healed for an X amount of damage, the damage that Deep Wounds deals. This is not that great. It sounds it sounds great. Unfortunately, it's kind of a trap where Deep Wounds doesn't deal that much damage to begin with. So if I look like at a damage breakdown, Deep Wounds was really only on a 3-minute fight on a world boss. Not the greatest metric, I'm aware. So one single target, it dealt 44.6k damage. It was 7.5% of my damage, yes, but it's also at the state it's at now, it's 22%. So it would have healed me for like 20 some odd k. No, not even, like 10k. It's really the benefit just isn't that high. If Deep Wounds ever gets to a point where it deals a lot of damage, you see the value in Fueled by Violence going up, but right now as it stands, it's kind of a don't bother. Unnerving Focus. This one here, Last Stand, increases your rage generation by 45%. So this one here is if you are talented into Bolster, which reduces Last Stand's cooldown by 1 minute, so it makes it a 2-minute cooldown, which is really strong, and grants you shield block for the effect of this duration. Bolster is a fantastic talent for this because it will give you 15 seconds of shield block. So if you're learning how to tank Prot War, and you're running Reprisal, and you're still not getting the full uptime of Shield Wall right, and things like that, and you got a lot of pumper DPS where you don't need anger management, Bolster is really good for pushing keys, things like that too. Increasing your rage regen for 15 seconds by almost 50% is fantastic. It'll give you more ignore pains, but is also really good in execute phases, because you can literally pop Last Stand, you have 15 seconds of shield block, your Shield Slam and Thunderclap are going to give you almost 50% more range. You can pump in more executes. So it can be used as a DPS cooldown, as well as a defensive cooldowns for oh crap moments when you need a lot of rage regens for a lot of ignore pains. So it's kind of it's situational, really good in 2 separate situations, but those situations happen a lot where it's really useful. So I will usually keep Unnerving Focus spec'd in. I do enjoy it a lot, and things like that. Lower keys, I'll go into anger management. So next we go into the finesse conduits. So cacophonous roar, intimidating shout can withstand more damage before breaking. Not great for keys. Definitely not great for rating. Really good for really pretty good for PvP. But aside from that, I won't keep it on. Disturb the Peace. Shockwave's cooldown is reduced by X amount of seconds. Higher the conduit, more seconds. You combine this with Rumbling Earth, where it hits 3 targets. Its cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. This becomes a fantastic option to have. You will have Shockwave up every, 18 seconds, 17 seconds, depending on your conduit. Super solid option to have, especially if you're playing with people that don't know how to kick, don't know how to stun, just want to do big dick damage, and don't do any of the utility. Shockwave is really good for the Rumbling Earth, Disturb the Peace, Shockwave combo is really, really good for group placement, group kicks, things like that. The next two are actually super solid options. So Safeguard, Intervene reduces the damage taken by the target by 13%. So this is a great for you. And I know it sounds like it's better for the other one, but you have to remember how Intervene works. So Intervene, you run at a high speed towards an ally, it's a charge towards an ally, and you intercept all melee and ranged attacks against them for 6 seconds while they remain within 10 yards. So you intervene the target, they're now taking, on my conduit at 213, it's 13% less damage. That means you're taking 13% less damage that they would have taken. So it's really good because you're now taking damage for 2. And you're reducing that amount of damage taken. So Safeguard is a fantastic option in Mythic Plus with Reprisal because you're using Intervene a lot. This is going to mitigate a lot of damage. Super, super good option to have. Up next is Inspiring Presence. This is really why I wish I had more finesse options. We should need longer soulbinds. Give me longer soulbinds. Add more, because I want both of these in. Inspiring Presence on Prot will Rallying Cry's duration and health granted are increased by X%. This makes it a much better raid and dungeon utility, especially for prides. Adding an extra, so I mean 28% of 20%. It's not adding 28% on top of the 20, so it's not like going to give you 50, but it is going to make it closer to 30, which still adding a 30% heal and max HP buff onto everybody is really, really good, especially for the prides in Mythic Plus. It is a fantastic raid cooldown all around. Really, really solid to have. So just keep that in mind. Inspiring Presence should be socketed in raid, and is really, really, really good in Mythic Plus too. Just a question of whether you want to run Safeguard or Inspiring Presence. Up next for the Potency Conduits. So, the class Conduits, we're going to go first. I know the Destructive Reverberations, for the Night Fae is a solid option to take. It is a group kick. It deals a lot of damage. It's a rage regen, and you get more of them. It will bring it down to like a minute 25. Solid option to have. From the research I've done, the Kyrian Spear Bastion Conduit, also rage regen, and it deals more damage. Super, super solid option to take. I honestly would on both of them. The Ventier and the Necrolord ones are kind of in that B tier. They're good, but they are outshined by the other ones that can be more useful to you as a prot warrior. So just keep those in mind, but if it affects your playstyle for the positive, run them. If not, don't. It's your character, play it however you want, because the best way to play your character is however you want, as long as you play with it. So Prot Warrior only has one potency conduit that is specific to them, which is Show of Force. Revenge increases the damage of your next Thunderclap by 18%. Super solid option, unfortunately, for potency conduits. You can really... I only really can spec one because of how good the soulbinds are for Night Fae, but Show of Force is a fantastic option if you're running 2 potency conduits. So perhaps run your Covenant conduit and Show of Force, really, really good. And then lastly, the Ashen Juggernaut. Execute deals, increases the critical strike of your next execute for 8 seconds by a certain percentage, stacking up to 8 times. Really, really solid option for, if you need that execute. Unfortunately, it just gets outshined. Prot warriors really can only use the execute minus 20%. So you're going to get more value out of the other potency conduits than you are this one. But if your group is struggling with execute phases in certain raid bosses or things like that, think about running Ashen Juggernaut. You know, you might be able to add that little bit of extra DPS that you need to circumvent or overcome the problems that are there. So that is Prot Warrior. Fury Warrior Conduits. We're going to do the same thing, Endurance, Finesse, Potency, and I'll just kind of discuss where they stand on each one. So, Brutal Vitality for an Endurance Conduit, honestly, not that great. You're not casting Ignore Pain much. It can be a decent cooldown if you time it right. Unfortunately, you're not casting Ignore Pain that much as a Fury Warrior, unless you kind of, it's a problem pack and things like that. In niche situations, this could be useful, but just all around, not that great. Indelible Victory. I use this a lot for world questing. If I want to go Fury for world bosses or things like that, I'll spec into the talent, which Impending Victory, because you might not need 2 charges in the open world. And it adds to your survivability in the open world, but not that great outside of it, because in dungeons you're going to want Double Time or Stormbolt. So the Stalwart Guardian for Fury changes to reduce the cooldown of Enraged Regeneration. This is your go-to Endurance Conduit, because Enraged Regeneration really is a lifesaver. 30% less damage, and your Bloodthirst will heal you for a lot more. So this will get you through a lot of problem packs a lot better than Ignore Pain will. Next, we're going to go over to Finesse. Cacophonous Roar, Intimidating Shout. We dealt with this with Prot Warrior. This is going to be the same for Arms, so I'm actually going to skip it after the fact. Really good in PvP, PvE scenarios, not that great. Disturb the Peace for Fury changes Piercing Howl's cooldown to be reduced by 8 seconds. This is really nice on Spiteful weeks. Not that great in other weeks, so it's kind of one of those things where meh. Safeguard. Intervene reduces the damage taken to the target by 13%. Again, you're not casting Intervene that much in PvE scenarios as a DPS. If you intervene your tank, you're going to die. Very good chances if you're a warrior. So don't do that. But maybe you want to kind of help your healer out a little bit, or help another DPS, and you can pop a cooldown and things like that. Not a bad option, but not great. So for Finesse, I'd be going with Inspiring Presence. Rallying Cry's duration and health are granted by 28%. For all of the reasons why it's great for Prot, it is still great for Fury. It should be your go-to Endurance Conduit, which in most of your options is you're only going to have 1 Endurance Conduit. If you're running a second, I would think maybe Finesse Conduit. In most scenarios, you're only going to have 1 Finesse Conduit. Inspiring Presence should be your go-to. I know I said Endurance, I'm sorry. Potency Conduits. Ashen Juggernaut. This is good for Fury if you're running a Venthyr. If you're not running Venthyr, it's okay, but there are better ones. So for Covenant, they basically, all the things I said about Prot really apply to Fury here too. The Destructive Reverberations for Night Fae, super solid option to have. The Spirit Bastion, more Rage regen, more Rampage, help your tank kite. Just a lot of really good options to have there. So I would be running your Night Fae or Kyrian Conduits for potency slots. If they're high enough, if you use it enough, that would be my go-to. Venthyr is a solid B tier. If you're really trying to hone in on that Condemn, I would be going with that as well. So super good option. The Necrolord one, the Conduit, the ability is great. The Conduit itself is kind of a little bit lackluster, and the other ones shine a little bit better. An absolute go-to in all scenarios for Fury Warrior is the Depths of Insanity, which makes your Recklessness last longer. If you're running Signet of Tormented Kings in Mythic Plus, which you really should be, this will also make your Avatar and your Bladestorm last longer on either or that's procced. So solid potency conduit to have, and that's the one I would be running with. Hack and Slash has an extra chance, so Rampage has an extra chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow. It's okay, but it's not it's not, it shouldn't be your best, it shouldn't be your go-to. It's just one of those things. Vicious Contempt, though. This here, especially in execute phases. So Bloodthirst deals 36% or an X amount of damage increased to enemies who are below 35% health. You combine this with your execute, execute. Oh my god, I need more coffee. With your execute, you are going to just pump the damage on anything. So Tyran weeks, enemies like that where you can like Bloodthirst, execute. You're really going to just rip things to shreds with this here. So it's a great rating option. And it's also a really good Mythic Plus option. So you do have a few potency conduits to choose from depending on your playstyle and depending on what you need. So just some things to think about there. But my absolute go-to for Fury should be socketed no matter what is Depths of Insanity. The rest are according to your playstyle. And last but not least is Arms Warriors. So in the interest of not repeating myself too much, Brutal Vitality, same thing as Fury. Indelible Victory, same thing as Fury, although a little bit better in PvP. Stalwart Guardian reduces the cooldown of Die by the Sword by 30 seconds. This is your go-to endurance conduits. Die by the Sword is an amazing option in Mythic Plus because you can literally taunt something off your tank that is pure melee. Remember this. If it's, if it's caster, don't do this. And have 100% parry, and you can, maybe tank some tenderize hits from the Necrotic Wake or things like that, and just parry them off. Like it just doesn't matter. So fantastic option to have because Die by the Sword is one of the best personal cooldowns in the game. 100% parry is not to be joked around with. Cacophonous Roar, same thing I've said with the other two. Nothing changes. Disturb the Peace, Piercing Howls, cooldown is reduced. Again, same thing that I said with Fury. Really good for Spiteful Weeks. Aside from that, very blah. Safeguard, same thing applies from Fury. And then lastly, Inspiring Presence is your go-to finesse conduit because Rallying Cry is just really, really good, and improving that is that much better. Then we get to Potency Conduits. Execute, so Ashen Juggernaut. Now, this here, if you're specifically an Arms Warrior, there's a very good chance you're already Venthyr. So getting that Condemn Execute strike up over and over again is a really, really good thing. The Ashen Juggernaut combines super good with that. Aside from that, if you're running another Covenant, the other ones are probably going to be a little bit better and a little bit more used for you. So Venthyr, great, solid option to take. Other Covenants, maybe not. When we go to the Covenant Conduits, again, same thing applies from the other two, except for Venthyr shoots up a little bit better for arms, because Condemn is much stronger with arms than any of the other classes. So you might want to think about putting that solid B tier Venthyr Potency Conduit in. Aside from that, Destructive Reverberations and the Kyrian one, super solid to take. The Necrolord one, not that great for personal use, great for group utility. Then we come over to this arm-specific Potency Conduits. So Crash the Ramparts increases your overpower damage. Super solid option to take all around. Overpower is your main rage builder, so you're using it a lot. So just increasing that damage is a solid option to have that you don't have to play around because you're already doing it. So great Potency Conduit to take there. Merciless Bone Grinder. When Bladestorm ends, Whirlwind deals increased damage for 9 seconds. This is really good in pure AoE scenarios. But that is pure AoE scenarios. The moment you hit single target on this, it's not that great. So play it if you know you're going into like a lot of AoE and you do not need any extra single target. But aside from that, it's kind of hit or miss. Mortal Combo actually is a really good one. Mortal Strike has a percentage chance to trigger a second Mortal Strike. You're casting Mortal Strike as it is. Having that extra chance works really well. So for me, I've been running a combination of Ashen Juggernaut, the Destructive Reverberations because I am a Night Fae. I chose Night Fae. I love Ancient Aftershock so much, but that's entirely personal. and might not be the best in slot for what you're doing. So do keep in mind with Covenant options. I did go through a Covenant options in a different video. If you want to check that out, please feel free to do so. But I've been running a lot of Crash the Ramparts Mortal Combo, and in M+, I've been doing the Destructive Reverberations. But for PvP scenarios, it's been Crash the Ramparts and Mortal Combo. So that's my guide to all of the conduits, breakdown bit by bit, what you should be running, what you can be running in certain scenarios as well, because there's a lot of options with warriors, and I honestly wish they got rid of this stupid conduit energy system. Like, just let me free swap conduits, man. Like, I can't play as much arms PvP that I want because I'm always out of the energies to be able to get a soulbind in. Like, it just drives me up the wall. So, just a lot of things to be annoyed with there. But that's the way life works. So if you do like this type of content, please let me know. If I missed anything, or there's something that you think is a little bit better than another, or I did not give it enough attention, please leave me in the comment section below. I'd love to know your opinions on warriors, all specs in this expansion. I think they are a rising star. Fury after the buffs is nuts. Arms in PvP and in PvE are really, really good. A little bit lacking in the single target on both of them, but man, their AoE is bonkers. And Prot Wars are just so much fun, man. I know right now the meta is Vengeance Demon Hunter, but guess what, man? Prot War is on the rise big time, and people are really starting to see the value that they can bring into a dungeon. Because I've been running a lot, and people are like, I didn't think, Prot War would do that good, because everybody's expecting a Vengeance. But man, like, dude, that was nuts! And like, it's just kind of how it's working out. So, I stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Come on by, check that out if you want any warrior information. If you have any tanking questions, any DPS questions, come on by, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And aside from that, I hope you guys are enjoying Shadowlands as much as I am. Is there anything else that you guys would like to see on the warrior? I've kind of covered a lot of the basics, but if you want a more in-depth on anything, please leave that down in the comment section below, and we can see what's doable for this, if you want, for what kind of information you guys are looking for. Aside from that, enjoy your guys' day, and